Hello, welcome to Awaken Your Creative Self. I am your host, Claudia Chen. I'm so happy to bring on today's guest expert. She is a life strategist, author, minister, entrepreneur, and corporate leader who is committed to helping you be who you were born to be and not settle for what society has taught and told you to be. Through her coaching program, books, sister circles, and speaking events, she passionately challenges people to shed societal shoulds and outdated beliefs so they can soar higher in their personal and professional lives. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to SharRon Jamison. Hi, SharRon. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Claudia. I'm so
I'm
happy to
so
be with you.
excited.
I'm so
Yes.
excited about our time together. So thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to let everyone know that the first moment I actually watched SharRon's video, her smile, her energy, and her passion just drew me to it. I knew I had to talk to this lady. So I'm so glad that I got a hold of this lady, busy lady, to be on here.
Oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And I'm just excited about our time together. So
Yeah,
thank you.
for sure. So could you share with us, SharRon, a little bit about who you are and how your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Sure, sure. As you already said, I do a variety of things. Corporate leader, mom, minister, author, speaker. I started my journey because Claudia, growing up, I felt like I never fit anywhere. So I was born in the 60s, and when America was really challenged, like we are now with integration. And so I started going to a school, and I was one of the only Black kids, and I always felt on the outside. And that continued, until I got older, and then I started playing basketball. And then I realized I was again on the periphery because I was a girly girl playing basketball. So I wasn't accepted because I didn't look like the other athletes. They would warm up and I would want to put on my lashes before the game, right? And then it continued. And then my father's a minister and I also am a minister. When I was really starting to understand how I viewed God, I realized that again, my thoughts had me on the margins. I didn't fit with everyone. So my whole journey was dealing with the pain of not fitting in, always being different, always being unorthodox or unconventional. And it really helped me understand the meaning of misfit. But however, I don't think of a misfit in a very negative perspective. I think of misfit as missing the fit. I don't fit. I'm a misfit because I don't fit. And that was the beginning of my journey to understand that it was power to exist on the margins because miracles and magic happen on the margins. And I had to learn how to be my own best friend because I didn't fit anywhere. And I realized that the reason why I didn't fit is because I challenged the status quo all the time. And the boxes to me felt very suffocating. And my journey started there. It started understanding that um, accepting myself was really important, but also learning how to accept myself in a system and in organizations that did not accept me was part of my journey of self-acceptance and full belonging. And so that's how this entire process started with me, being a misfit and understanding that it was okay and that the power was in being different.
This is so powerful. I think it's also kind of resonates with me also because when I also came here from Hong Kong, I never really fit into anywhere either, just because I'm not really Hong Kong Chinese, and then I'm not really Canadian. Like I'm not the cheerleaders, I'm not on the football, I'm not the arts. So it's kind of like trying to get myself like that mentality. I think it really helped me in saying, hey, you know what, it's okay, I don't need to listen to what other people say. And it's so powerful. And I think that's how you actually started your business, and this is that message, right? Could you tell us a little bit more about your coaching program and a little bit more about that?
Sure, sure. And I totally get about what it means not fitting. So I really understand your experience. My entire mission for my company was to have a safe place where people could learn how to soar higher. Soar higher than stereotypes, soar higher than labels, so higher than our own trauma from not fitting in, to so higher than all the societal paradigms. And I wanted people to have the internal and spiritual infrastructure to stand in their power, even if it meant that they had to stand alone.
Mm.
And so to do that, I know that it requires three important attributes to be able to soar higher. One is to educate. I wanted people to learn about who they were and who they were not. Because when you know who you are, you can leverage the lessons and you can lose the lies. So my thing is learn the leverage of who you are and lose all the lies that society taught you who you were. Because the society wanted to keep you in a box. Because if society keeps people in a box, Claudia, it makes them predictable and not purposeful. So if I can regulate you and I can control you, that means that I never have to worry about you challenging my authority. And so that's one of the things I educate people about who they are. The second thing, I help them activate their strengths. And we all have strengths, we all have gifts, we all have supernatural wisdom, and we just have to learn how to turn that on. And we have to learn to turn it on because part of the socialization process was to get us to turn it off, right? To be sane, to exist in a sea of sameness. So I had to teach people, as I taught myself, how to turn yourself on, how to celebrate your unique brand of beauty, your unique brand of brilliance. And so that's that activation process. And then I believe after you educate yourself about who you are and accept it, you can activate your strengths, and then you just elevate. You elevate yourself. Elevate yourself in a way that's authentic, that's honest. You don't have to comply, you don't have to conform, and you don't have to collude with all of the ways that people want to suppress you. But however, it starts from education and knowing your value and activating your strength and your courage. That's when you can really shine. And it's a wonderful thing. And it's a process that we never graduate from, because we always are being bombarded by messages that say that we are less than or we don't fit. Beauty looks like this, blonde hair, blue eyes, 5'8", a size 2. That's not me at all. So I have to always work against or push back on the stereotypes that says that beauty is everything that I'm not. Being smart is everything that I'm not. Being a Christian is everything that I'm not. Being lovable is everything I'm not. So I have to push back on those messages. And you can do that when you know who you are. So that's my whole motto, and that's my commitment. I'm passionate about it because I know the danger of self-loathing. I know the danger of not liking yourself. It feeds dysfunction in ways that make you really be mediocre. And who grows up to say, I can't wait to be average? Nobody says that. And that's why I'm so committed to this mission.
I have to say that when you said like from getting from education to activation and then to elevation, it seriously gave me chills when you told me, like when you said it in that process, just because, yeah, you really do have to understand who you are first. But because the way that we're educated, like the way we went to the school system, it's pretty much like, I remember reading this one comic, which is like a little girl just starting to go into school and her head is round. But then the teacher was trying to bring her into the class, and all the students inside the class, their heads are cubes. So like they pretty much shape your head and shape your thinking into what it fits into that mold. And like when I saw that, because I have a son, and that really like resonated with me because in Hong Kong, that is exactly how we were raised. You go to school, these are the things you learn, and you're fed these things that you have to memorize, and we were never taught to question things. So I myself have been on this exploration where it's like, you know what, I need to learn how to question things. I need to learn how to get outside of why this is how it is. And I'm always talking to my husband about this. And yeah, definitely the activation part of saying, knowing what your strength is, because people are so interested in saying, hey, you have to do all your tests, and if you get A's, then you're considered smart. If you don't get A's, then you know what, then you're less than whoever. And that hurts, right? But like, a lot of people don't fit into that mold. They have so much strength, and I think that's a lot of it is lacking.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that anytime we teach people to go along to get along, we fracture them, we shrink them, but we don't understand that we're wounding the soul because the soul wants to be expressed. And so when you shut the soul down, you should not be shocked that you see so much violence in the world, that you see so much unhappiness in the world, that you see so much abuse in the world. You can't take a person and cut parts of them off and say, now go out, multiply, and have a good day. That doesn't happen, right? Because even though our mind knows that we have to play the rules, our soul says, this is not right. This something about that, even if we don't have language for it, we know it's not right. It's interesting, Claudia, I remember when I was growing up, and I would read the stuff in the history books that they tried to tell us that slavery was a good thing, that it was wonderful, that, you know, slavery, everybody was good for slavery. And even though I was 5 years old, I didn't have the language for it, but I'm like, that's not right. Even when I'm also Cherokee. So I knew that all the negative things that I heard about indigenous people, something says, that's not right. Now, I didn't have language to push back, but I always knew that, okay, I have to pass the test, but I know my spirit is not right. So I always had this duplicity, this dichotomy going on to say, okay, SharRon, this is the stuff you need to pass the test, but this is the stuff you need to live your life. And those things were never the same. And you don't want your children to grow up like that, living in a dichotomized schizophrenic environment. And that's what happens.
Yeah, I totally believe that with the school system having that split system where you have to choose between the science and the arts, and it just like so segregated, while in this world, like, creativity is all about like thinking for yourself, thinking for what's going on. Now, since we're going into the creativity, like, how does getting to know yourself activate that creative part of you? Like, could you just tell us a little bit more about in your experience?
Yes, what a great question. One of the ways that we can access our creativity is when we have a sense of belonging and when we have courage. Because it takes courage to be creative. Because what you're saying is, I'm going to do something different. So one of the ways we develop our courage is when we start knowing the truth about who we are. And we have someone, it can be one parent, one friend, to witness us and to validate us and affirm us. Then we start pushing ourselves out of the narrow boxes. And that's when you allow your imaginations to run free. I know so many kids who are very, very imaginative, you know, when they're 5 and 6. You know, you ask them, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be a doctor, a fireman, this. They will tell you different things because they know that there are no limits. What happens is we get socialized. They say, you got to pick one thing. So we don't understand that until you know who you are and you develop courage to push back. You will never allow your imagination and your creativity to roam free. And that's why it's so important to be not only around friends, but also in the right organizations. Because when innovation and creativity is supported and encouraged, that's when you're going to get life altering stuff. That's where you get a Microsoft and an Amazon. Why? They push the limits. But creativity comes with having a courageous culture, a courageous infrastructure. And when we're able to turn our creativity on, what happens is it not only helps us, but it helps the room, because creativity is contagious. And
Mhm.
that's why you want to be around a lot of free thinkers and a lot of people who are challenging the status quo, because that's where we get inventions. That's where we get cures for cancer. That's where we get treatments. But you got to get out the box. Remember, the magic is always on the margins. The miracles always happen in the margins, not in the middle. You got to get outside of what's common so you can have what is extraordinary.
It's so beautiful. Like what you just said. Can you share with us a little bit more about what does creativity mean to you
Sure.
and why do you think people need this? I know you talked about a little bit, but just give us a little bit more, because I feel like you're getting onto something there, but I just want people to understand why it is so important that they need to tap into this, because this is what we need at this point in time,
Yeah,
and or even in the future,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. When I think about creativity, the word that comes to me is liberation. Liberation to think, to try, to do, to make mistakes, to get it wrong. And when we are able to liberate our minds, it allows our imagination to run free. And when we allow our imagination to run free, and my imagination is running free, and your imagination is running free, can you imagine the power in the room to do things that have never been done before? You know, it's always the saying that you can't fix today's problems with today's mindsets. That means that if we want to fix something, we can't use what we have now. We have to use something that is untried, that is unnew, that's new. And so I think creativity is liberation. It is the willingness to see life in color, not black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It is the desire to know what's in your soul. Creativity is so critical, because without it, we will never have innovation. We will never have wonderment. We will never have curiosity. We will not walk in our courage. When we think about creativity, we're thinking about getting into the mind of God. To me, creativity is that huge. Because if here's my religious part coming up as a minister. If I believe that the earth is full and that we should explore and we should have adventure, that we should try things we've never tried, that's curiosity and creativity. But I want people to understand creativity. The foundation of it is courage.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have the courage to question, the courage to be a critical thinker, the courage to say no, that's when we can really have holy yeses. And
Mm-hmm.
holy yeses is what helps us connect with God, our source, our divine, our a higher vibration, however you want to explain it. And that's where all the wonders happen. And so that's why creativity is so important. Creativity to me is spiritual. And
Oh, I just love that, just because I do think that also, because when you're talking about it's a desire to know what's inside your soul, it's like, do you know what, like we're just like, sometimes when we learn a new skill because we like what we see, but at the end of the day, by learning this new skill, what are you doing with it? Like, this skill set that you have is just a vehicle. It's not the end point, it's the vehicle. It's like, for me, I'm doing my calligraphy, but I always like think about, oh, just because of COVID, I'm thinking about like, what is it that I want to achieve with my calligraphy? And it's that end point, that going beyond, or like as you said, is soaring above what you have. And that is just so beautiful. Now, I know that you have been talking about courage, and that is probably one thing, or maybe one of the several things that's stopping people from getting into it. Now, would you be able to, like, from working with your clients, from what you see, can you just share with us some of the limiting beliefs that people are experiencing and how to tap into that. I know this is like, I talk with my speakers every single time about limiting beliefs, but I feel like this is the one thing that's stopping them. You two share with us your expertise.
Oh, this is the stuff that really turns me on, because it's usually it's always the 4 questions. The 4th question is, I cannot do it. So the limiting belief, one of the limiting beliefs is that I'm not competent. I don't have the gifts. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the wherewithal. So one is always, I can't do it. The second limiting belief I get all the time is, they won't like me, that I will be excluded. So this whole idea that if I accept myself, everybody else will reject me. So that's a limiting belief, because well, your friends might reject you, but not everybody. There are many people who will welcome you. You might have to change your circle, but you won't be rejected by everybody, just a few, right? The third thing I hear a lot is that there's no room. Somebody else is already doing it. I don't have enough. Scarcity. So I see a lot, anytime someone says somebody else is doing it, it can't be done, I don't have the resources, I don't have this, I don't have that. Scarcity. Because I feel like you don't have to have the talent to do something. You just have to have another talent to encourage someone to help you do it. And so that's why sometimes we think that we have to do it, because maybe your talent is doing it. My talent is motivating. I don't have to do it because I have a talent to motivate you to do it, right? But all of those skills are really important. Another thing I hear is that I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. I'm not qualified. So I hear that. So when I think about all the limiting beliefs that I hear, always around worthiness, competence, scarcity, and the fear of rejection. And if we can get those, and I work very closely with my clients, because sometimes they don't know that it's fear of rejection. They give me some type of excuse. But however, if you feel like you have to stay in a box, that's rejection. You're scared of rejection. Or if you feel like, if I can't be successful, I don't have what it takes, that's competence. Or scarcity, I don't have enough, that's scarcity. It's always one of those 4, and they show up in different language. But I've been doing this for a long time. I can spot it. I'm like, that's what that is. And then I push them on it. And here's the blessing. People, if they have language for it, they can identify it, they can acknowledge it, and convert it to fuel. They can transmute it so that they can use it to transform their lives. But the problem is sometimes people don't have language for it. So they feel like, they call everything fear. And I tell them, what are you fear of? Are you fear of rejection, that you can't do it, of the environment? So I kind of break that down. And the second thing I do, I have a system called PEST. It's a framework that I use to help people identify what might be holding them back. And this is I started using PEST when I taught diversity, but it really has more applications for it. And I trademarked it as like my own framework. And the P stands for passed down beliefs. And that means, what did you learn as when you were growing up about what it meant about money, what it meant to be a girl, what it meant to be Chinese, African American, tall, short, differently able, Muslim, Christian? What did you learn? Gay, straight, what did you learn? Passed down beliefs. The E is societal expectations. And that means, what did you learn that society expected from you? Just like you said in your country, and also in my country, even not my country, my culture, I'm sorry, your culture, my culture, this is what is expected of you as a boy, And if you go against the grain, there's a whole bunch of societal backlash to make you compliant. The S is for systemic influences. And that means, what are the institutions and structures baked in the culture and policies and rules that preclude you from doing something, right? Mm-hmm. For example, we know that in America, there's a lot of discrimination against people of color. And their rules and laws about where you can live, it's subtle, but how much money you can borrow, where you can vote. Subtle, but still that there's systemic rules. They're in discrimination is baked into the water that we swim in. Now let people understand it's not you that's failing, is that this is a failing system. It's not, you're not the failure, the system is the failure. And I help people not just cry about the system, but navigate around it, right? There's your creativity again, right? Creativity helps you in everything in your life. The T is for trauma. And we have little trauma and big trauma. Little trauma might be somebody broke up with us. We were not in the in crowd. Little trauma. Big trauma, I was abused. I was molested. I was bullied. I was beaten. I deal with systemic stuff, microaggressions, right? Trauma, those historical trauma, generational trauma, those, remember, trauma stays in your body. And the scientists already know epigenetics. So we know that sometimes you don't have language for it, but you're just mad. So I help people understand that. And the S is for stories. The stories are things that we tell ourselves, because remember, the brain wants conclusion. The brain wants to know, the brain wants an answer. Remember, the brain jumps to quick conclusions. And that's great because it keeps us safe. Mm-hmm. But because the brain does that, it's up to us to pressure test what we think. Pressure tests are interrogate everything. And so I show people how to do that. Now, why is that important? Because then I can separate what is an issue of policy versus my personhood. Mm-hmm. And so now you can say, that's not who I am. That is the water that I swim in. And you can make sure that toxic water doesn't start to live in you. And if you can keep the water, you can recognize it, but keep it from infiltrating your mind and your heart, you can always navigate around it. Because if you have courage and creativity, there's no limits. Creativity is a superpower that allows you to jump over hurdles and swim through tunnels and strategize around opposition. But you have to be creative to see what's not easily seen by most people. That's why it's a superpower. Most people are not creative.
I have to say there are so many good points that you brought up. And thank you so much for touching on all of these things, like the 4 things that we have, that limiting beliefs, and then the things that you can do to actually identify them. And I think one of the most important things that really catches me was really caught my attention was when you say you have the words to identify something. That's because subconsciously there's so many feelings and emotions, but you have no idea what it is. And you said, like, as you said, like, our brain is so powerful, like it's just within a split second it will kind of give you that feedback without you even knowing what's going on. Like it's already processing all those emotions, all those like judgments, all those stories that you don't believe. And being able to label it, being able to identify those stories is so powerful. Would you be able to give us like something that can help us with identifying those stories? Like, I think it's that processing of the story, I think, or what you say to yourself. I think that is so important. I mean, everything you talked about is important, but like due to time, I think this is one of the things that is so powerful.
Yes. It's interesting in all of my programs, and one of them is Dare to Be Me. We spend a lot of time on asking ourselves a couple of questions. One, what do you see? Is there evidence that what you see is not true? Could there be more to the story that you don't see? And what lens are you filtering your information from? And so, somebody might come to me like, oh, SharRon, you know what? My boss doesn't like me. So we will do this. Okay, you know what? Give me an example. What do you see? So describe the behavior. Because remember, you have behavior and you have interpretation. So I tell me, give me the behavior. So that's one thing. And so then they tell me what their interpretation is. The second thing, Claudia, I would say is there anything else that could be true? Is there anything else, right? Because remember, we're looking like here, there's truth over here and there's truth over there. And so I said, is there anything else that could be true? So we talk about some things that could be true. So the third thing I would say If those other things were true, what opportunities does that open up for you? And then we talk about that. And then we say, and then they say, well, I know I'm true. I said, okay, if that's true, if you feel grounded in what you believe, what action will you take? The action, and the first action is always go ask a question. Go to the person and say, you know, this is what you said. Is that what you meant? And one of the things I do in Dare to Be Me, we strengthen our ask muscles, because we all have ask muscles. And if you don't strengthen those ask muscles, you will live in the world of assumptions. And assumptions will never give you what you want. Now, why is that important? Here comes courage again. It takes no courage to assume. It takes a lot of courage to ask. And so that's why I walk and work with many of my clients. And this is what we do. We practice those skills. Now, because I have seen so many coaches, you give a whole bunch of information. The information doesn't help, because remember, we learn and practice in safe communities. So we go around and give people language. I said, now, how would you challenge me if I said something that didn't land well on you? And you practice. Why? Most people don't speak up because they don't know what to say. So in a safe container, you practice. And I push back on you. And they practice. It's kind of like strength training, right? But just differently. So now when you leave my program, you have skills. You know how to stand in your power. You know how to push back. And remember, it's a skill to be assertive without being abrasive. It is a skill to be diplomatic without being degrading. So we practice that. So, and we have to do that, especially as women in the corporate setting, because we would disappear. And people steal our ideas. So we practice that. So, and I think that's the missing piece in a lot of coaching programs, because I've been in coaching programs for the last 20 years. I learn information and I get inspiration, but I don't practice implementation. You have to practice those skills in a safe environment. You know, you practice stuff when you don't need it. And then when you need it, you have it. It's kind of like driving a car. You learn how to maneuver a car in icy situations. So if it ever happens, you do it. And that's really key.
Yeah. That is so powerful, because I think when you said, when you're assuming something, actually, just going back, you said the first thing you need to do is ask questions. And I think a lot of people probably in their mind or in their heart already said, right? Because it's that courage you're talking about, because there are so many of the limiting beliefs, again, like the 4 things, like, oh, what are they going to think about me? Am I not being a team player? Am I causing too much trouble? And like all these things that just starts coming up into people's minds. And it's like, you knowing that set of skills, then it's just going to help you along. And also working on yourself, on your own story, and releasing your own limiting beliefs is going to also help you stand out to ask that question, right? Because then you're removing yourself from the actual outcome that it comes up, right? So
yeah, I think it's really important to live our lives like detectives. Because if you don't, I try to step out of myself and look at my life as if I'm a detective. But that takes a lot of courage, because I might be getting stuff wrong. And we usually are, because we all have our filters. But it all comes down to worthiness. Now, here's the thing about creativity. You have to feel worthy of your creativity. You have to feel that what you have to contribute is just as important as somebody else's. You have to know that you have a distinct way of seeing the world, and it is just as worthy as Bill Gates did with Apple, with Microsoft. That is just as worthy as the person who has sold 15 million books. Because just because that you are less visible with your gift doesn't mean it's less valuable. And so you have to say, you know what, I'm worthy of that. And if people don't know that they're worthy, they won't take up space. We have to take up space. We have to have a voice. We have to challenge the norms. And so I think that the most important skill for people to operate in their creativity and their courage is worthiness. I am worth I am worth you listening to me. I'm worth having my picture up there with Picasso's. I'm just as worthy. And I think when people get that and know that, they won't highly esteem everybody else without esteeming themselves.
Oh my gosh, that just seriously gave me chills, because I do also believe that it is that worthiness that people are stopping themselves from making the piece, or they have done a piece but they don't post it out there or share with people. Not that, like, if you don't want to, that's fine. But if you actually want to, but you're stopping yourself from sharing it, and wondering if there are so many pieces out there already, right? Like, why would yours matter? Like, and that is one thing that is so important, because then but you also have to think, like, there are so many people in this world. Even just you being able to affect one person's life, like, wouldn't you want to just touch that one person? Like, maybe you are going through something traumatic and you have found a way out of it, just sharing your story. And if that other person haven't seen, like, maybe, like, who knows, who have like very big audience, but if they haven't heard that message, but they have heard your own message and their life has changed, maybe they don't think about suicide anymore. If they don't think about, like, or even you inspire them to do something, like, wouldn't you want to do that? Right? That's the higher thing that you can do. And I think that is so important.
And that just touches my heart. People think that volume equals value. They're two different things. And here's the spiritual part of me. If you think about, I'm gonna be a little minister for just a moment. When Jesus had the 100 sheep, when one left, he went back to go find that one. So people have to understand, one is a big number to source, to God, right? To however your spiritual belief is. Buddha, doesn't matter, whatever. One. And so I think that we get caught up on numbers. I always tell people math does not always equal meaning. Mm. So I never get caught up in money or math or how many likes I have. I don't have a lot of likes. I am not the biggest influencer, but I'm still powerful. Mm. And I want people to hear and look in the mirror and say, I'm powerful. I don't need to be validated to know that I have value. I have value because I'm breathing, that I take up space. And so I think when people understand that they have that volume is not it's not correlated with their value, and all these vanity numbers. Oh, she has that likes. She has 2 million Facebook. Who cares? Who cares? Just like you said, one is a big number. Especially if one is your mom, one is your son. I have one son, he's 26. If somebody helps my son one, that's a big number to me.
Oh yeah.
So I hope people understand and get into their spirit that if they don't have to have all of this, what I call fake appreciation, when they have real appreciation, real acceptance. And when you really accept yourself, you're like, well, I've had books that were very successful and books that were not. It doesn't make me any less a writer. Mm-hmm. Popularity is not proficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so true. Like that one. And also by you making an impact on one, then the others are going to come too, right? So, but it's that first one. Yeah.
You never know. You never know. Do you think, let's say Barack Obama, do you think his teacher knew at 4 or 5 years old that he would be the president? No, she just poured into him. And so now, since Barack Obama, he was the president, do you know how many little people of color, little kids, little color think like, you know what, I can do that too? But nobody knew that because he was first.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's one person, but I bet in 5 years you're gonna have, you know, every race, every color, every nationality, every faith tradition, every sexual orientation, every gender identification knowing I can too. That's the power of one.
So powerful. It is so powerful. Oh my gosh, like I wanted to talk to you about other things too. I don't know if we have time,
No,
but
we have
maybe
time.
we can do like a quick one because I feel that this is also very powerful in terms
Mhm.
of how to make ourselves more unique. Like it's always when whether you are in a workplace, whether you have a business, people always say you need to have your own unique self, but what does that mean? And I know you share about um, getting all your identities together, and that is okay. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I really want you to talk a little bit more about this. Like, how do we go about gathering all these identity? What does that all mean, and why is it important?
Yes, I love that question. We all came to this world loaded with gifts, all of us, right? And people have to remember that we came loaded with gifts. So when if we are loaded with our gifts, we never know the extent of our gifts if we don't try different things. It's just exploration. Let me try a little here. Let me try. It's experimentation. You don't know what you can do until you do it. So what I do, I just kept doing everything I wanted to do. I was a personal trainer. I was a workout person. I owned a gym. I wrote books. Went to school. I started getting my second master's. Okay, I didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do that. I started to paint. Didn't want to do it. I started making jewelry. I'm pretty good at it. So I feel like you have to try different things on because we all have talents and you never know what talent is going to switch that gift on. And now, why is that important, Claudia? We are different people with different people, right? And different organizations stimulate different parts of us, different groups of people. That's why if one of the parts of self-love is keep putting yourself in different environments. And so you can find out what turns you on, what turns you off, because I always knew I was a good writer. I always knew that I was a good talker. It was just part of me. But then I'm thinking like, oh, I'm a good blogger. Oh, I can teach aerobics. Oh, I'm a good businesswoman. So I just keep trying and trying and trying. Now, why is that important? When you accept all of your identities, you don't see limitations. And you bring all of who you are to every experience. Now, what makes me a good business person? Well, I'm a mom. I'm a daughter. I'm a writer. I'm a teacher. I bring all of that. It's going to help me be a good business person. What helps me be a minister? What? I'm a mom. I'm a writer. I'm a business owner. I am a leader. We have to, when we leave parts of our identity at home and don't use it, we become less than. What if I was a minister and I never brought that I was a mom? Why is that important? Because a mom is a nurturer. What do people need as a minister? People to be nurtured. Why would I not bring that? Why would I not bring my leadership skills? What do people need as a minister? Leadership skills. What did I learn my leadership skills? I learned it over here in the business world, right? So I think that we are in a whole bunch of different experiences to turn parts of us on. Just like this, and it becomes a domino effect and a ripple effect. But you have to understand I'm more than one thing. There's a term called liminal. And liminal means that we are always in the middle of a couple of things. We're always beginning and ending. That we have meaning, we are multifaceted, multi-layered. Why is that important? When we grew up, our parents said, society said, pick one thing that you're good at. That's limited. But however, we were never made that way. We were made to be liminal. That's why we have different gifts. We were made to fluctuate and go here and go there and do a little bit of this and do a little bit of that. Society taught us to do one thing. Remember our parents used to say, choose one thing and be good at it. We used to hear, you have to be a specialist. Be a jack of all trades and a master of none. That's culture, but it's not true. Everything about me helps me be good at being a coach. Everything, being a leader, being a mom, being a minister, being an author, being a speaker, it helps me. Helps my coaching programs. Why? Because I bring being a mom, being a leader. You see what I'm saying? I bring all of my identities, and that's what makes us special. Now, the problem is when we bring all of our identities, we become a complex, unique amalgamation that only we are. And that's what makes us unique. When we cut off parts of ourselves, or leave parts of ourselves behind, or bury parts of ourselves, we become less than. Instead of, we start operating on the 70% of who we are versus 100. Here's my prayer. I always tell God, God, help me see what you had in mind when you created me, because I want to die empty. There's a saying that the richest place in the world is a graveyard, because people die with their gifts. I want to die empty. And people are asking me, SharRon, I'm in my mid-50s. Are you going to go back to school? I don't know. But if I do, I'll do it. And if I don't like it, I'll quit. I have quit a lot of stuff too. But I give myself permission not to allow other people to judge me when I start stuff and quit stuff. Now, I'm not just saying just, never complete anything. I'm not saying that, because we have to try stuff long enough and try it on long enough to really do a good experiment, right? So I'm not just saying just, do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that. I'm saying do it long enough to see, do you have some giftedness in it? Do you have an inclination for it? Do you have an affinity for it? That takes time. And make sure you're around the right groups. Because some of us, if we're not in healthy, safe containers, we will never try.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Everything you said is so powerful, because I totally get the part where we are so focused on, okay, I'm going to work now, I'm in my work mode, I am at home now, I'm a mom, and everything. When you can integrate that, it's just being super powerful, and be able to be conscious about it too, right? Because I think it's the not being able to put yourself 100% in there, and then it's kind of like mind wandering, not paying full attention, then it doesn't feel meaningful to you at that one spot. But this is also something that I'm trying to get into, because like when it comes to work, I need to be fully in and present to be there, so that I find that meaning. And then when I'm somewhere else, and I also put myself all in there, and it's so much effort, because a lot of times people find that the job is not satisfactory, so then they're half in, half out. And it's a mindset shift, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think purpose is so important. I think knowing our purpose is like spiritual dynamite. Because when you know your purpose, it explodes creativity. Because you're doing what you were created to do. And it explodes courage. So sometimes I tell myself, make sure I'm staying in purpose, fulfillment. Make sure I'm staying in my purpose. And sometimes we have more than one, sometimes we have one, everybody's different. But when you know that you're in your lane, then you have explosion. But also, when I think about you, Claudia, the reason why it makes you such a good caregiver is because you are a mom, because you are a business leader, because you are a wife. All those things. I didn't even become the best employee until I became a mom, because then I understood how to nurture. I understood life integration. I didn't know how to become a best coach until I became a minister, because I understood the power of presence, the power of questioning. So everything goes together. And I invite people to understand, to look at your life gives you clues. Look at all the clues that your life gives you and put them all together. Because man, when you put those clues together, you're unstoppable.
Oh, what you said about like once you become a mom, and then you become a like better caregiver. Even like once I became a mom, like I definitely cared more about like how I see this world, how like, is that it's a little bit more passionate versus before I'm just like, eh. It's like I was like seriously very apathetic about a lot of things. So like being a mom, like really, and it was kind of how the business kind of started, because once I became a mom, I'm like, you know what, like I, as much as I love my job, I feel like there is something more that I can give. And then just to prove to my son, right, like I probably said this on other interviews, it's like interviews, like I want to prove to my son that I can actually do something, and I can actually put stuff out there and care about the worldview, about my perspective. And that's mostly because I want my son to see that he is limitless in what, because like if his mom, like a little old me, can do it, then he can do anything. And then the other thing you said too, like it's really only when I started doing the business and was in coaching and in, that's a mindset, like it's the knowing the mindset, then it kind of like, you know what, and that's how I came about taking care of the family, and like knowing how to deal with my husband better, like all these things is so important. And oh, thank you so much for like sharing all these, like
I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I so admire what you're doing. And because it allows people to see that they can explore themselves. They can
Mhm.
continue. We have so much potential. But you have to know that you can do it. But here's the thing, Claudia. People need to understand you can't change alone.
Mhm.
We never become our best selves by ourselves. I hear people all the time, well, I read the self-help book. It doesn't matter. That's like reading a book on swimming. You don't know if you can swim till you jump in that water. And that's why I think it's so important. And I think that you have already said, I have already said it. You got to get into a safe place to experience parts of you that you know will be rejected in somewhere else. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I am in couple of masterminds because I know that the people who know me as a minister, they don't want to know me as a leader. And the people who I know as a leader, they're like, "You're a minister?" Oh, so I know to get in places where people don't know anything about me, where I can try on new identities. So I can try on new things. You have to have a safe place. And that's why I want women to get coaching. I see women, and I bet you too, Claudia, they will get everything for their child. If they had a child, they would make sure the child had everything, but then they don't do it for themselves. And I'm thinking, what are you showing your child? That after you have a kid, that you give up your life, that you
Mhm.
stop growing, that martyrdom is motherhood. Martyrdom is not motherhood. Believe me, I have had foster kids as well as my child and step kids. I probably raised like 10 kids with all of the kids involved. So that's really, really important. So I'm glad that you're doing this work. I wish you so much success.
Oh, thank you so much.
If you're doing
Thank you
this,
so
going to be
much.
life changing.
I'm so happy to have you on here. Before we wrap up, I know that SharRon has a free gift for us. Could you share with our viewers what it is and how they can get it?
Yes, they can. It's called Friends That Soar, and I think that you have the link. If not, Claudia, I'll give you the link. What it is that as I was talking about the importance of a healthy container, healthy friendships, and so what it is a 7-day audio series that helps people identify the qualities and the characteristics we need to have great friends. I think so often here's where we have to push. We are taught that we should just allow people to stay in our lives. They're your family members, they're your friends, but maybe those are not the people you can grow with. Those are not the people who will allow you to be different. Those are the people who want to keep you in that box. So it's important to choose your friends as a form of self-care and as a form of self-development. So the 7 days, it talks about the different characteristics. I want people to download it. And as they are being more creative and courageous, you want to be in a safe place, out what I call an incubator, a healthy container so that you can soar. And you cannot soar by yourself. So that's why the friendship is so important.
This is a very powerful gift, and I encourage everyone to get it, just because it is true. As they say, like for the people who are making it, they say like how you are like as a person, just look at the friends that you have. your friends are like that, then you're like that. So you need to better yourself. And you know what? Sometimes it is very heartbreaking if other people don't accept you the way you are, but you have to know that this is your calling, and just because you get rejected by these people doesn't mean you get rejected by everyone, right? As you mentioned before, and so powerful. And thank you so much for your free gifts. And SharRon, can you tell people where they can find you?
Yes, everything is my name, SharRon Jamison. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything is SharRon Jamison. I want to invite them to in a couple of weeks. My new book will be out, Decided to Soar 2. I talk about some of the stuff I talk about. It's called Unwrapping Your Purpose, Decided to Soar 2. And then also Dare to Be Me starts in October. And it's a 6-month program where
Wow.
we not only have information, but we do the practicing and we uncover the past. We do all the work that we talked about so that people can reemerge as their total, full, authentic, purest self so that they can soar. So I'm excited about that. So connect with me somewhere
I'm so
and
excited.
I would love to engage with people.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much, SharRon. I would like to thank you again for joining me. I had such an incredible time talking to you and chatting with you. And we had such a deep conversation. I just loved it.
My pleasure. I thank you for the opportunity.
All right. I'll connect with you later. Bye.
Bye.